Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, the final one in our series for 2018, talking about automating the conversion of content to DITA and optimizing it for reuse. So I'll be hosting today's event. I'm Les Burnham, I'm CEO of the company, and the demo today and the technical work will be done by Helen St, who is our Conversion Services Manager. I'm based in our UK office, and Helen is actually based in our Ottawa office in Canada. So for those of you who haven't actually attended before or don't know Stilo, let me just spend just a couple of minutes talking about what we do. So we're actually a public listed company. We're listed on London Stock Exchange. As I said, we have an office in the UK. We have an office in Ottawa where our technical team is based. And essentially we're a tools provider, and we provide tools and associated services for structured content solutions. So we've been working in the world of XML and before that SGML for many years with the developers of Omnimark, which is a content processing language development tool. We developed Migrate some, I guess, 10 years ago now, which is the world's first cloud content conversion service. And that's what we'll be talking about today. We actually, in recent years, have developed AuthorBridge, which is a web-based authoring tool, which we co-developed with IBM, and which is going through. We'll probably have version 3 release in January of next year. And also, we're just in the process of announcing and launching Optimizer, which we'll be talking about today as well. And this is all about maximizing or optimizing reuse potential within DITA content collections. So that's what we'll be talking about today. We, as I say, we've been in this world of structured content for over 2 decades, 25 years or more, and we work across a range of industry sectors with quite a wide range of customers. So today's agenda is in 2 distinct parts. We're going to be providing a very brief overview of Migrate, and we'll provide a demo as well. We'll take basically a document which is in FrameMaker, and we'll convert that to DITA. It could have just as easily been a Word document or an InDesign document, but we'll today take a FrameMaker document or a couple of documents and convert them to DITA. And then we'll actually be then providing an overview of Optimizer. And then we'll run those, the data that we've generated from the conversion, we'll run that through Optimizer, and we'll show you how we can optimize reuse opportunities. So there's actually quite a lot to get through. Normally, one of these webinars might be dedicated to one of these tools. We're doing 2 today, so we'll be moving on at quite a pace. So let me go straight into talking about Migrate. We'll take questions at the end, if you don't mind. So Migrate was the world's first cloud conversion service, and when we provide a Migrate portal to a customer, we essentially sort of pre-configure a portal for them. So we take your sample documents, whether that be in Frame or Word or InDesign. We work with other source formats as well, RobberHelp, for example. We can take DocBook as well, and HTML files. Anyway, we pre-configure a portal for you. We essentially can target that to whatever flavor of DITA you prefer, version, whether it be 1.2, 1.3, including specializations or not. And we can configure this for different document groups, and we can upload single or multiple files to the portal where they would then be analyzed. And so I think it's really quite interesting that we do the conversion on much more than, say, styles. Styles is one thing we look at, but we essentially sort of look at patterns and context to annotate those documents and then map those documents to the target DITA. I should add actually that we can convert to other XML formats, but we've been specializing in DITA now for the best part of a decade, and we know the standard extremely well. So we target the DITA. We provide basically warning reports if we think there's anything amiss or looks as though it could be tidied up a little bit, maybe pre-conversion. We also have this concept as a pay-as-you-use system. So we have this concept of conversion credits. where one conversion credit processes 1,000 characters. So typically, in a FrameMaker document might be 1,000 characters per page. So one conversion credit in that case would convert one page. So we look at this. We then say basically Migrate will tell us how much the document is going to cost us in terms of credits. Do we want to do that or not? Convert, and we say yes, and we'll convert it in real time. And we'll always get valid DITA. We're basically doing schema-generated DITA, and this is available to users 24/7. So nice thing is that we can produce the DITA, and then we can refine it as we see fit. So we have something called a rules editor, which enables end users to tweak the rules and very quickly sort of improve upon the quality of the DITA that's being generated. You don't need to be a developer to use the rules editor, and that's really essential. And you can convert this as many times as you wish. It doesn't cost you any more in terms of conversion credits, and you can clone and modify rule sets if you want to. And we'll show you all of this in a few minutes. And all of the time you're using this portal, then we're sort of supporting you. We can dip in and out of that portal to support you as if necessary, as needs be, and help you along the way with any troublesome documents that you might encounter. So we generate valid DITA every time. As I said, everything is schema generated. And we can produce DITA topics, specialized topics. We can give you DITA maps or book maps. We convert FrameMaker drawings to SVG and equations to MathML. So we do a lot of really quite complex stuff, I must say, in terms of content conversion. So the beauty of this approach, and this is why we developed this approach in the first place, was because it makes life easier for the ID team. So essentially in different ways. So it places you in control, really. You can decide what documents you want to convert on demand and get immediate results. So this helps you basically schedule your conversion jobs around your own personal production workloads or priorities. And nice thing about it is that it avoids the churn, what we call the churn of going back and forth with conversion partners in a more conventional sort of traditional outsourcing environment where you might have an offshore conversion provider, but split across time zones, for example, and you need to communicate changes across time zones, and that can be really frustrating, especially if the changes aren't actually readily understood first time round. And that can cause a lot of anxiety and stress in high priority situations. So we avoid all of that by putting you basically in control. Also, because of the high level of automation involved, we find that we can cut down substantially, sometimes exclusively, on the amount of manual sort of pre-conversion work or cleanup that might need to be done, and which in itself reduces the post-conversion cleanup that might need otherwise to be done as well. So this is, again, due to the high levels of automation that we've got in Migrate and that we've continually refined over a decade. So as I mentioned earlier, this is sort of a pay-as-you system, so any sort of financial risk is pretty much taken out of this, and you can just, as your budgets allow, you can put more credits onto the system and drive the system in that way. So, as I said, it's fully supported, and so you always know, for all that you're in control, you always know that you've got Stilo and our expertise sitting in the background to help you out as and when you need that. So basically, it's a lot of this hinges upon the fact that we do have very advanced levels of automation in the system that we're providing. And you may find that other conversion houses claim to have a high level of automation, but actually don't necessarily, and it's the devil of this in the detail. So it's probably good just to explain a couple of sort of things up front, just to give you a sense of the sort of complexities that we can handle. So Helen, can you perhaps talk to this before going into the demo, please?
Sure, thanks, Wes. So this slide just lists a few of the things that people find challenging and wonder if it can be done through automation, and we find that they can be. One of the big things in converting from any kind of presentational format into XML is tables, especially tables where you have complicated column spanning and row spanning. Trying to do this manually is frustrating, time-consuming, error-prone. Nobody likes it. Migrate will do it automatically. So whatever your column spanning and row spanning is in your table when it goes in, you'll have the same thing coming out on the other end without doing anything else to it. Now, mind you, of course, the flip side of the equation is that in a lot of presentational formats, we tend to use tables strictly for layout purposes, and you actually don't want a table in the DITA. So commonly in FrameMaker, for example, we'll find notes have been formatted as tables. But fortunately, with a simple rule or two, we can identify those tables, strip out the table markup, mark up the content that's inside correctly, and we'll end up with notes instead of tables. So either way, typically we don't have to worry about our tables. We can handle those automatically. The next thing on the list is talking about, again, let's mention that we do use styles in our conversion, and typically what you'll see in an automated conversion is a mapping between a paragraph style and a DITA element. And this is great, and we do this a lot because you can get a big chunk of the work done that way. However, it isn't adequate in all cases. It won't do everything because paragraph styles may be used for more than one thing. So, for example, you may use a numbered list style to indicate what would be a numbered list in a reference topic. You might use that exact same style to indicate steps in a task type topic. But because Migrate's conversion is schema driven, we can use the context in which we come across these things to automatically get this right. So if Migrate comes across something that's told to be a step and it's in a spot where a step is not allowed, Migrate will automatically fall back to create a numbered list item. So that, again, makes life much easier in terms of being able to get these things right. Along the same lines, when it comes to the smaller, the inline markup, we have other things that we can use besides paragraph styling. We can use the context in which we find these things, as well as just the inline styling and so on. So a little bold span in a step, we can look at that and we can look at what comes before it. And if the word before it is click, chances are that's a UI control. If the word following it is window, then it's probably a window title. So we have all of these clues that we can use to help us identify these things correctly and give them the correct semantic markup automatically. We do also give you control over the structure of your maps. So you can have a book map, you can have a DITA map, you can create maps at the chapter level or any level that you like. And you can set the hierarchy of topics within your map. And this is all done with rules. So it's always within your control. And the other thing is that we do give you access to information that might not always be visible in this flow of your content. So you might not see it when you're just reading the FrameMaker, for example. But if there are index markers in the FrameMaker, well, we can automatically convert those to index terms in DITA. We can map conditional text to the appropriate DITA profiling attributes. We can do various things with variables. We can pick them out and either make them conrefs or key refs or do something else with them as required. Text insets or snippets, again, we can take the reuse that's there and we can implement a reuse strategy based on converting chunks of these reused pieces of content that are already reused. And as well, we can also access content that's in your master pages or the headers or footers of your document. Quite often there's useful metadata there, and so we can grab that automatically and create metadata elements from that.
Thanks, Helen. I'll just make you presenter now, and hopefully this will move control across to you very quickly.
Thanks. Should get it. There we go. Okay, so now you should be seeing my screen. And what you're looking at is the page in a Migrate portal that you would see when you would first log in. And it will have your documents listed, the ones you've uploaded to your portal. Here I've got the same one uploaded twice. Normally you wouldn't do that because once it's uploaded once, you can convert it and download it. You can come back and make changes and reconvert and re-download as often as you like. You don't need to upload it more than one time. I just usually end up with more than one copy as I prepare to do a demo. So what I'll do now is I'll go briefly through the workflow in Migrate. We'll take a quick look at the document that went in and a quick look at the content, the data we get out. Then I'll show you the rules editor and how we go about making the rules, and we'll make a little change and we'll see how quickly those get propagated. So obviously the first thing is to upload a document. So I'm going to find my document here, and it's a zip file. And in my zip file, I have all the FrameMaker, and I've saved it all as .mif, including the book file itself. And I hit upload. So Migrate has uploaded it now, but as you can see, it's still analyzing. Oh, it's finished. What the analysis stage does is actually does a few things. So it creates an intermediate XML format from the MIF files. It's a pretty simple XML format. It's only got about half a dozen elements, but it does preserve all the properties that we would find in the MIF. So it will preserve paragraph styles. It'll preserve things like margins and font size and font weight, line height, all of those things that we can use to help us, things that we use when we look at it to help our brains understand the structure of the document. We can grab onto those things and use those as well. And it's also preserving markers or conditions or any of those things that are in the FrameMaker. It's also, if there are any FrameMaker drawings, it's extracted those as SVGs. If there are any equations, it's extracted those as MathML. And it has counted the number of text characters in the document, and that's how it calculates how much it's going to cost us to convert this document. So my analysis is finished. So if I click on the file name, it takes me to the details page where I can see what the analysis has shown. So it's counted 24,932 text characters. That's not including white space. So that's where my 24 credits comes from. It's counted words and paragraphs and other things. Those don't have any bearing on the credits charged. It's just for our information. If I had any warnings, they'd be here, but I have none. So I can just go ahead and convert at this point. So I'll say, okay, I'm going to accept that 24. And then my next step is to assign some rules here. So I've got some rules put in place already. And I'll give it a target. And in this case, I'm going to go to DITA 1.3 with a DITA map. And then I'm just going to hit convert. This should convert very quickly. I'll just quickly show you the document that I've uploaded. This is what I've uploaded. And what it is, it's a portion of the documentation for our OmniMark product, the part that has to do with the different components for compiling and running OmniMark. So you can see it's a pretty standard document with headings and steps and lists. Excuse me, and it's actually, in this case, it's handy because it has used a different style for steps than it has for lists. So that makes life even easier in terms of differentiating a step from a list item. It's got some code in there. Here it has, again, this is formatted just as a bulleted list, but you can see that I may want, in fact, to make this into a definition list because it really does just define these warnings. So there's something that I might want to look at to differentiate this in some means other than simply the paragraph style. And there's a few other things in this. We've got this other chapter here, and it's got some conditional text in it. But it's a pretty straightforward document. So it has finished converting already. It only took a minute and a half. So I will download that. Extract that so we get a zip file. So from my little FrameMaker document, it had 2 chapters. You can see that I get out a DITA file for each topic. Now, I didn't bother stripping out the numbering in the file names. I could have, but I didn't bother. Other than that, I have a map, and I've got a DITA val file because I did have conditional text. So if I open up my map, so here's my map. As you can see, it's structured based on the heading levels of the topics in the input document. So here I've got, this is obviously a task. So I've got some steps. OmniMark being the name of our product, it is a trademark. So if we put tags on, we can see that it did come out as a trademark. If I put it in the plain text, we can see that it has a type attribute. It's got the TM type. Let's look at control warnings. And here I've got my definition list for the definition list part. And here I still have a bulleted list for that list, which is formatted the same way in the input in terms of paragraph style, but is it in fact a different type of list? That's still coming out as a bulleted list. So I could go through all of this, but in the interest of time, let's just say we're reasonably happy with the output. However, I've decided that really OmniMark is a trademark for sure, but it's a registered trademark, so I need to go in and make that small change from the trademark type from trademark to registered. So what I'll do now is I'll go back over here and I'm going to open up my rules editor and make that change. And this will give us an opportunity to look at how the rules are structured and how we can go about doing all sorts of different rules. So here's a rules editor, just refreshing. And what it does is it gives us a quick look here at the input. It's a representation of the intermediate XML file that we created, just enough styling to represent the structure of the document. It's important to remember that this is the intermediate XML. This is not DITA yet, and it's also not FrameMaker. It's on these elements that we set the annotations that guide the conversion. So here's OmniMark. I've selected OmniMark, this little span here. If I click further, I select the whole paragraph. Over here, I get to find out the properties of the content that I've selected. So I know what type of an element it is. I know all of these properties about it and any rules that I've put in place. And this one, for this paragraph, I've just told it that it's not inside any list of any sort. The OmniMark, you can see that I've given it this annotation to make it a trademark with the type TM. So I want to change that. And here's the rule that has made that change. And I can see that my rule has matched 116 times. So I know I've got 116 instances of this very same trademark. I know it's always going to be the same because it is a FrameMaker variable, in fact. and I'm just going to say registered here instead. Done. And save. As soon as that's saved, I'll hit convert again. Come on, I did hit convert. There we go. While it's converting, that should only take a minute. Let's take a look at the rule for the list. So here's where we've got our bulleted list, and in this case, we've got a definition list. So same rule for both. We've just put different conditions in it. So each rule will have two parts. It's got the part that identifies the text that you're interested in, and the part that instructs the conversion as to what to do with that text when you found it. So in this case, I've looked for one of these two styles, so one of these two paragraph styles, to know that it's a bulleted list. So the style will either be bulleted or B1 bullet level 01. So any of those. And then I've said, well, there's two cases I'm interested in. One, it's going to be a list, and one is going to be a definition list. So I've looked for the case where I have anything up to a colon, and that's going to be the term. Then a colon, which is a separator, I'm going to remove, and the rest is a definition. So, and otherwise, it's just a list. So I have these two cases. So in the case where it's list, it's just a bulleted list at the nesting level 2, just in case it's inside another list or inside a step. In the other case, this part that I've matched before the colon becomes a term. I've deleted the colon, and then the whole thing becomes a definition list entry. So in fact, you can get quite sophisticated and complicated. Most of the rules here are not. This is just taking a paragraph of the style note and making a note, that sort of thing. Most of these are pretty straightforward, but you can get pretty complex and pretty sophisticated in all the things that you can look for. Okay, so we have a new conversion now, so we can download that. So here we are again. Open up the new map. Close these. Here I am, my new map. Oh, that's not the one I cared about, but never mind, that'll work. So we still have a trademark, but now the trademark type is registered. So, and that'll be the case in all the 116 instances that we found in this document. And as you can imagine, that would be a big help, particularly if you were doing that through a whole set of documents. Now, this is only one of my documents. I've got this rule set now that I'm pretty happy with. So I will just upload its fellow. This one. So it's still analyzing. That should only take a second. And I'm going to be able to convert this. Again, there's no warnings, so I can say, okay, accept. And I can attach the very same rule set and the same target, and I can hit convert. And then when I'm all done with this, this should again take about 1.5 minutes to convert. I will have these documents that I can now take away and deduplicate. Now, Les mentioned at the beginning that once we're in here, we are using the same rules for these documents because we know the documents are put together in a very similar way. But you may find yourself doing different families of documents where maybe the rules need to be slightly different. We can clone our rule sets so that we can make variations of them. So I have really an awful lot of rules here because this is a demo portal. But this is the one I'm using. If I wanted to make a copy of it, I clone it. I call it anything I like. And now I can take that rule set and I can substitute it for the current rule set in any of these documents. Open up the rules editor, make some changes, save it, so that what I'll end up with is a set of rules that is similar to the original, but I can make as many changes as I like without affecting the original document. And you can see I've got these organized in baskets. That's just a filter to help me organize what I see on my screen at any time. This is a demo portal, so I do end up with a lot of documents. So I might end up with all of these if I didn't show in baskets, and I've got 4 pages worth of these. It does just make it easier to keep things in baskets so that you can find what you're wanting to work with. And you can see that this took just under 1.5 minutes to convert. So then I will subsequently download both of these and prepare to deduplicate them later on in Optimizer. So I think that's back over to you, Les.
Okay, thanks very much, Helen. Let me take control again and hopefully share my screen with everyone. So I think that's happening now. Yes, I'm the presenter, so let me share my screen. All right. So just moving on from there. And just to very quickly just summarize this first part of the session, it was interesting a few years ago when we, in the earlier days of Migrate, we actually implemented Migrate at Sterling Commerce. They were acquired by IBM and they needed to get all their content into DITA. And they'd been previously working with a traditional sort of outsourcing conversion provider, and they'd been having some problems and some issues, and then Migrate came along and they implemented Migrate. But what was interesting is that they could compare metrics of one method of working versus another method of working. So that's with their outsourcing conversion partner. This project, was converting a couple of hundred FrameMaker books, 20,000 pages to DITA over a 6-week period. So basically, they've been using an outsourcing provider. You see that they've been spending on average 24 hours per document in pre-conversion work, and then 32 hours per document actually converting, and then 16 cleaning up post-conversion. So when Stilo came along with Migrate, basically they still spent the same amount of time prepping their content, but essentially it was converted pretty much automatically with minimal cleanup required. So it was good to have some metrics to make these comparisons. They'd also done some in-house scripting themselves as well, but that wasn't really a scalable solution or appropriate for a lot of the work that they needed to do. But this was a very interesting exercise, and IBM more widely adopted Migrate following this as well. So let me move on to Optimizer now, and the second half of the session. So sorry we're moving on at the pace, but hopefully you'll stay with it. So let me just introduce Optimizer to begin with. So it's a new tool from Stilo, and basically it's there to help maximize content reuse in the DITA world and improve, as a consequence of that, content quality. So it's a tool that's geared towards what we might call sort of power users or super users, essentially sort of ID professionals and information architects. We don't really expect this, although it's not to say that it couldn't be used by all authors, but we think it would be sort of central administrative types who understand the content architectures and basically what sort of topics can be deduped or not. So when to use it? Typically, as part of the initial conversion process, we see two main use cases really. So as part of the initial conversion process, so basically as you saw there, when we're converting content using Migrate, we could actually go on to deduplicate, as we'll show you, before uploading to the CCMS. And I think that's an absolute sort of sweet spot for Optimizer. But then ongoing, where it may be that you're already in DITA and you have your DITA content collections, and you want to just sort of carry on optimizing that or deduping that and cleaning it up as you go along on an ongoing basis, then it makes sense in that environment as well. And in many cases, I think it would be fair to say that some sort of tighter integration would be required with the CCMS in order to actually handle the change management issues that might be involved. So we're currently looking to engage with beta testers. We're gathering feedback on reporting, on the user interface, on workflow requirements, and CCMS integration requirements. So that's the status of things. If we now consider, well, why Optimizer? It's really helping to realize the benefits of DITA adoption and content reuse, which essentially sort of, reducing the amount of content that needs to be maintained on an ongoing basis, but also sort of helping to generate more focused rapid search engine results for customer queries. We find that in certain environments that as maybe sort of authors don't conref content as maybe they should, maybe they copy and paste and make a few small adjustments, then very, very quickly your content can become a little untidy. And it could be that one search produces half a dozen different, well, just different results, but not majorly different, but different, and that can be frustrating for customers. So you can publish more accurate, normalized content, and it's going to be especially important in potentially hazardous and highly regulated environments. And and along with this, if you've got tidy content, then you'll be able to reduce the time to publish with single source updating. So that's generally sort of why Optimizer. So how do you keep on top of content reuse having made the move to DITA? This is a common problem for people. This is something we're looking to address with Optimizer. So basically, the way in which this is typically done, and to this day really, is that users just eyeball reuse opportunities and implement changes on a manual basis. It's painstaking, and actually there's a lot of reuse potential which you just wouldn't be able to identify manually. So you need to be able to easily identify what the reuse opportunities might be, and then decide at what level you want to implement some of those opportunities as well. So you have to make lots of individual decisions. You dedupe topics and elements, and then you update the maps and the conref libraries manually. So what can we do to help? I mean, basically, it's what Optimizer does is essentially sort of analyze your DITA content collections. It identifies reuse opportunities at various levels. So you can look for exact matches or near matches. You can go down to topic levels, paragraph, element levels, and then basically manually prioritize what you want to look at first, and then make decisions upon each of those opportunities that present themselves. So the DITA content can be deduped automatically. The libraries, the conref libraries and DITA maps can be updated automatically. Takes a lot of the pain away from this sort of exercise, really. And then we'll produce summary reports. So we'll show you analysis of the near and exact matches, so you can see what opportunities for reuse exist in your content. We'll show you before and after character counts, and give you a report on the replacement details as well. So it's not necessarily straightforward. You'll see that the more you dip and dive into this, then you get small sort of complexity. So you'll see matches inside matches where we likely wouldn't want to convert conrefs of both the inner and outer elements. In any two identical topics, there might be identical paragraphs and lists or list items, which probably don't need to be conrefed if the topic itself is deduped. So it's important to know what level you want to actually undertake this exercise. So it's really something to sit down and work through, but hopefully Optimizer takes a lot of the pain out of the problem. So with this demo that we'll show you now, you'll see that there'll be a significant number of near and exact matches. You need to decide which elements to prioritize for attention first, and then drill down into those key element types. So without further ado, I'll hand you back to Helen to go through the demo. And I would just add at this point that our organizer for today, Helen Owens, WebEx has decided to actually bump her out of today's session. So if you want to send any chats or questions, please send them to myself on the chat rather than Helen. So I'll just now make Helen St. Denis presenter again. And Helen, over to you to show Optimizer.
Thanks, Les. Okay, so here we are looking at Optimizer. Again, this is the screen you'd see when you log in, and it has a listing of the collections of documentation that you may have uploaded. A collection can be really anything that you just want to compare to each other. For example, I might have a collection of docs that are in DITA 1.2, and I'll have a different collection of docs that are in DITA 1.3, for example. So what I've done is I've taken the content that we converted just a little while ago, and I've already uploaded it, and I've uploaded it into this collection, which I've just called OmniMark documentation. And I've done it in 2 bundles, one for each of the documents that I converted. So in each bundle, there are all the DITA topics and the map. Everything that came out of Migrate is in there. Now, I could have put all of these into one bundle and uploaded it all with the maps and the topics and everything. I could have done that, but just because in the interest of just being quick and easy, I've uploaded them individually. There's no necessity to do that. So I've done that. I've also created a library as a spot to put some of my deduplicated content. So what you see here now is a listing of all the elements within this entire collection. And it just lists the element in the order of the frequency in which we see them. So we see more paragraphs than anything else, so that's why they're first on the list. Next thing on the list is command names. So I have a bunch of command names because it is documenting a programming interface. So I have a bunch of those. I've got trademark, and I'm sure there's only one trademark, but there's 116 instances of it, and so on and so forth. So I can go through and analyze each of these things on an element-by-element basis according to what I think I might be interested in deduplicating. It makes sense to do it this way because analyzing everything all at once would take a long time, and really there's for sure going to be elements that we know we don't want to deduplicate. For example, in your DITA you might have short descriptions. It does not make any kind of sense really to deduplicate short descriptions. So let's only concentrate on the things that we've already decided we care about. So for my purposes, I've decided, well, command names I think I would like to be able to conref. So I've already analyzed the command names just to save a little time. And what you can see is we've discovered exact and close matches. What we do is we take each command name element that we find and we compare it to every other command name element in the whole collection. So that's why it does take a few minutes to finish the analysis. And what we've done is we've calculated how close these things are. And we've actually, this is a recent development, we've actually got 2 different measures of closeness. The first one is, it's again character for character. So in this case, there are no differences out of 7 characters. In this case, the characters would include the tags, because occasionally a tag might have an attribute that is significant. So we might want to know about that as a difference. And it includes unnecessary white space as well, whereas this other measure optimizes the white space for us. So we can look at this and say there's no differences in white space. So in this one, for example, I have one difference out of 13. Well, it turns out that difference is bound to be white space here. So they're actually probably identical. So let's go through, and we'll start with this one because it's going to be straightforward. We know these are just identical. So we have one of these with two identical matches. First thing I have to do is put this guy in the library. So I extract him. I put him in the library that I've already created. And then I say, replace him with all of these. So now in that place where this guy was first found, there is a conref. He has been moved into the conref library, and now he's referenced from where he was originally found and from these other places where the command name was identical. So if I go back here, now I can look at this, and I see that I have all of these that are very close. And again, it's just white space. So I know that I can, again, I can just deduplicate these. First, I need to extract them to the library. And I can extract all of those. So I can go through and do all of that for all of my command names if I want. That's going to take a bit too long for demo purposes. So let's probably not bother with that. Let's go back to the collection details and have a look at something else. Let's have a look at my concept. So one of the other things that I want to deduplicate, of course, is topics. So in this case, I've got some identical or near identical concepts. Now, concepts will always have at least one difference if we are looking at tags, because the IDs will be different. But in this case, we're not looking at tags and white space in the second comparison. So you can see that the first one I've got has all the trademarks picked out, and the other one does not. So I would probably deduplicate that one. This guy here as well. And I'm going to say replace near. So I'm going to deduplicate a few of these. Probably won't do very many because we have other things that we care about. Let's do that one. Near. And again, so what's going to happen now is that any place where this topic, the identical topics or near identical topics were referenced from the map, the topic ref is now going to go to this original example. So the other thing that I've noticed is, of course, I know I have one trademark, and we have 116 instances. I think that I probably just will want to conref that trademark. Makes sense. What happens if someday I change the name of my trademark? Or what happens is, how do I make sure people don't misspell my trademark, which, believe me, OmniMark gets misspelled a lot. So I just analyze these. I haven't analyzed these guys yet. So again, what Optimizer is doing now is it's taking every trademark element and comparing it to every other one. So it's an awful lot of comparisons from 116 trademark elements, but it goes fairly quickly. So it's 116. Each one is being compared to the other 115, which is why it's so many. We know they're identical, so this should come out telling us that they're all identical. Come on, finalize. There we are. Okay, so you can see that they are all identical. Well, we knew that, so we want to put this guy in the library, but we haven't got a library for trademarks, so we'll make one. Go back to where I was. And extract that guy. And I can replace them with all of these. Okay, so I see that we're getting low on time. So what I will do now is I will download what I get. We can take a look at that. Obviously, I haven't deduped everything that I could have deduped. So this will take just a few seconds, should do, to download. There we go. Save that. Come on, save. Okay. So here we have our two bundles of documents that we've got coming down again. We have our two libraries that we created, and we have a report. So let's just quickly look at the report. So it tells us how many exact matches we found. Now that is how many exact matches we found in the elements that we chose to analyze. How many near matches we got and how many reuses we actually took the time to create. Here it shows us which files we've actually deduplicated. So the fragments that have been replaced, these are things that we'll find in the Conref libraries. And down here it tells us the replacements of the topics and where we'll find them. So in that case, it's both in the engines bundle. So this is what the Conref library looks like. So you can see we just have the one trademark in here. So we can find that referenced probably in any of these. Let's just open it in TextPad because it's quicker. So there you can see the Conref to that trademark. It's there, and it's there again. So anywhere we have that OmniMark, we're going to have that Conref there. And in the map, so we look again at our report. So instead of 1.3, okay, instead of installing configuring what OmniMark on Windows -1, we have on Windows. So look at that. So installing and configuring OmniMark on Windows there, and we will have the same thing there. The very same topic referenced twice in the map. So it's as easy as that, really. And then anytime you need to make any changes, of course, in your Conref library, well, it's there. You make that change in that one spot. So now if I wanted to change the type of my trademark, I could just do it here, and it would be propagated throughout. So that is basically the demo. I did create the libraries that I needed for this demo within Optimizer. However, it's perfectly possible to upload a currently existing library and use it for that. Once you analyze, you have to analyze the library as well so that Optimizer understands the elements that are in it. But then it will tell you if you have a match with something that's already in a library, so that you don't create another conref. You can just conref it to what's in the library. Otherwise, that's it for the demo, and it's a good thing because we're just about out of time. So,
okay,
back over to you, Les.
Thank you, Helen. Let me just take back control and share my screen. Okay, so yes, we are running out of time, unfortunately. Let me just talk about if you do want to dig deeper into Migrate or Optimizer, and we'd be very happy to basically sort of just run some free conversions for you. And so you want to upload a small sample of content to our website, please do go to the stilo.com/migrate page. And you can upload a document there. We'll convert it for you and typically arrange your WebEx and go through results with you so you can get a sense of what your content might look like in DITA. And also similar sort of thing for Optimizer. So if you go to the Optimizer page on our website as well, if you want to upload a couple of documents, say 20 or 30 pages each with associated maps, we can run that through Optimizer and talk about deduping your content for you. Or we could, of course, combine the two, and we could take something from Migrate and feed that into Optimizer as well and do one combined demo. So let us know if you have any questions. Now, I think, sadly, we've got all of sort of a couple of minutes left, so I don't actually think we've got time for questions now. But if you want to sort of put any questions to us at info@stilo.com, we'd be happy to get back to you as soon as possible. Otherwise, I think that's really wrapping things up for us for this year. And next year, we kick off in January at the CIDM Ideas Online Conference, where we'll be giving a demo of Optimizer again. Helen will be talking about reuse strategies there. And then the first conference of the season will start in April at Durham, North Carolina, the CMS DITA conference, and we can look forward to seeing you there. So otherwise, thank you very much for attending. I'm sorry we don't have time for questions today, but we'd also welcome your feedback on the webinar, and if you could take a little bit of time to complete the survey, we'd appreciate it. So thank you very much, and look forward to talking again in the future. Thank you.